Welcome everyone to the next video in our Asteroids MMO playlist. So in this video we are looking to push the user information, the movement and the rotation of the ship up to the server so that it can be distributed amongst all the other players, so that all the players can see what each player's ship and movement is going on. So we probably end up doing this in two parts, actually, two separate videos. One with for sending the information up to the server, and then one for distributing it back down to all the clients. Anyway, let's get started with the first part of sending it up to the server. So if we look at the client at the moment with regards to movement, what did I click there? Get that off. So the movement at the minute is here. It's in this key pressed function, and it checks whether any one of these four keys is pressed. So based on that, it just simply runs me move. Now me is the local ship class here, which basically just adds it to the local values of the class, or of the object I should say, and then it just re-renders accordingly on the page. So the server has nothing to do with it. So what we need to do is kind of change what happens here so that we can tell the server. So ideally what we're going to be doing at the end of this is sending up a bit of information. So if we call it player position, so that'll be the method we'll call on the server. And then let's just say let's just call it player position. So that's the data object we're going to be sending up. So obviously we need to declare that. So let's set it up at the beginning. Okay. So as it stands, that will just get sent up as an empty object. But what we can do now in each of these methods, if statements, we can say if key is down and it's A is left on the keyboard. So we can say player position dot x equals -1. In fact, what we could default is 0, as if no key is pressed. And we can do the same for y. Now the angle is a little bit more tricky because obviously the angle stays whether you move the mouse or not. So for now we'll just initialize it as 0, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So play position x -1, let's copy that down to here. And so if it's D, it's right on the keyboard, so that'll be 1. You can then copy that again, copy that out, and we'll say player Y. So if it's W, that's up, so that'll be -1. And then again, we need to copy that, make that 1, comment that out. So now at the minute, when we press the keys on the keyboard, nothing will happen on the client. In fact, nothing will happen on the server as it stands at the minute. But it shouldn't error. In fact, if I save that, yeah, so you can see there in the visual, it's just reset the asteroid, so that's fine. So what about the angle then? Well, the angle actually is calculated here on the fly in the show method, which doesn't really work for us because we're trying to kind of avoid using this to calculate things. We want the server to do it. So what we can do is, let's do this. This dot angle equals 0. So we'll initialize it with a value of 0. And then instead of saying const angle, we can just say this dot angle. Now we can rotate this dot angle here. And yeah, I think that'll do. But what we have now in the me object is this angle here. So we can now say A is me dot angle. And there we are. That will now get sent up to the server on every frame rate that's run from the client. Okay, so let's receive that at the client. At the server. So we were going to call it player position. So let's create a new on here. Now we did have this on move that we were going to use, but I don't think we're going to use this. So I'll just overwrite this. Player position, and that just passes now. Oh yeah. So we need to pass the token now to authenticate who we are each time. So token and let's just say data. We'll come back to the token in a moment. So we're going to pass the socket and data to the socket player position. Yes. Okay. So let's go down to this function move, which we're no longer using, and player position. We get the socket and we get the data. Okay. So in our authenticate method, we grabbed the token. The token was like the only bit of data, but we're not currently sending the token here, but we're going to have to. Just realized this. So what we're going to have to do is make that an object. We're going to put the token in there, and then we're going to grab the token from local storage. So we copy that. In fact, I should just be able to do that. And then we're sending the token and the player position from the client. Okay, let's go back to the server. So in our socket player position, we can now say, let's just explicitly write it out and then we can condense it later. So const token equals data dot token. And so then we need to get the right player. So we can do this. We can get the player with this. Okay, so now we have the player, but we'll come back to that in a minute because we could change this possibly. But let's do the logic here. So now, as it stands, we're only given the user the ability to move in 8 directions based on a combination of the up, down, left, right keys. So you've obviously got your main compass points, north, south, east, west. But if you press 2 keys together, like an A and a W or the S and a D, you get the other 4 points, which is northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. So you've got 8 points. So rather than work out the sine and cosine of the distances, we're just going to work to the diagonal ones of the circle. So the up, down, left, right values are going to be 1, but the northwest, northeast, and so on points are going to be a value of 0.707. So we'll call that because that is what, if you did the sine and cosine of a 45-degree angle, it kind of works out at that. Maybe in the future when we do a more granular direction system, I'll have to readdress this, but for now, this will work. However, we also need to run a few if statements now. So, if data dot player position dot x does not equal naught, so what this means is if the x key is pressed, then the maximum the y key value is going to be is the 0.707. So now we have to say, let's set up some new variables. Let delta x equals naught. Let delta y equals naught. So if x is not, if x is at +1 or -1, then y, now it might be 0.707 or it might be 0, because if y isn't pressed then it'll be 0. So the best way to do this is to say delta y equals data dot I haven't got my equals in. Delta y equal data dot players, a player position, there we go, dot y multiplied by reducer. So this is just a quick way of saying if x is pressed, then we need to check if y is pressed, and if y is pressed, this will be -1 or +1. If it's not pressed, it'll be 0. So even if it's multiplied by this, it'll still be 0 if it's not pressed, so that doesn't matter. But if it is pressed, it gets multiplied by the reducer, so it won't be 1, it'll be 0.707. But then we have to put an else in there and say delta y. So in other words, if x is not pressed, then delta y equals, I'm going to hard code it to 1. Not ideal at the minute, but I just want to get the thing working for now. Okay, let's do the same for x now. So we need to check if delta y is pressed. Delta y, then delta x equals data player position dot x multiplied by reducer, otherwise delta x equals 1. Alright, cool. So now delta x and delta y equal the amount that we need to move the player. So what we can do now is say players hash dot token dot x plus equals delta x. And we can do the same for y. And that's it. That's the player position moved. Oh, we need to add the angle as well. What did I call it on the server? I haven't got a... What did we do with the angle when we first create the user? We don't. Okay, so let's go A naught. And then here we'll just say A equals, and we can call that data dot player position dot A. And that's it. That is the data sent up to the server. Now, let's check this out. So in the heartbeat, if we console log the players, we should see this information. So let's have a look. So we've only got the one player at the minute. Let's just kind of reload that. Socket is not a function. Oh, I've done something wrong with the client one. Socket.emit. Is that what it should be? Oh yeah, it's socket. It's not just socket, is it? Socket.emit. Save that. Okay, let's reload that again. Right, so if I do it over there, then the angle is 3.13, which is almost pi, which is halfway round. Whereas if I do it over here, it should be near 0. Yes, it's near 0. So that's correct. So the server now has the position. We need to say if not players hash token, and we just need to return. We just don't make any changes. Maybe it's just not initialized at that point. Okay, seems to be fine there. It's just upping it by 1 without me doing anything. Why? Why? Because it was 0, wasn't it? So let's just put him back. Oh no, let's tell you what, let's comment him there. Let's put him. So data dot player position. So it's 0, 0, but it's adding 1 each time. Okay, so there's a problem there. So let's see, delta x equals 0. If data dot player position dot x doesn't equal 0, data player position x, which is this, but it does equal 0. So it's else data y. No, it's not data y1, it's just data y and then whether the y key is pressed. And the same for this, but with the x. Okay, that looks a bit better. Let's move this. Just keep my finger on the key for a bit. And then if I go over here, we are now, 104. So we did that for 4 seconds. So now it's at 104. So that's great. That means it's now storing the player at the right place. And we can say that this part of it is done because the information is now stored on the server. Let's just tidy this up. There might be an easier way to do that, but I'll leave it as it is for now. Yeah, leave that as it is. Excellent. So let's wrap up this video here, and then in the next video we'll deal with it on the server side, pushing it back to all the clients. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like, and if you want to see more of these videos, if you click subscribe, you get notified in your YouTube feed when I make more videos. But for now, thanks for watching. See you again soon.